A major refinery fire on the left coast has put much of the West in danger of massive gas price hikes. So be aware, if you are west of the Mississippi, this could be impacting you shortly. And the rest of the country could feel the ripple effects as well. We got that and a whole bunch more to talk about on this Watchmen update. Good Saturday morning to you all. We got some other topics we need to cover. Sunday deadline for the Palestinian peace deal, or else Israel's going to go manually eradicate Hamas. We got ICE tracking apps finally taken down at Apple. We got 10 million people about to lose their health insurance if this government shutdown doesn't go the way some people want it to. We got Russ Vought. We need to talk about him because he's the hero that we didn't know we needed, but we did. And who do most Americans blame the shutdown on? We'll talk about that. Plus, USCIS has done a survey. They've done a deep dive in a certain area of the country to see how many fraudulent green card applications they're getting. 44%. It's big. It's big. Calf prices we're going to talk about. Soda and food stamps and how that goes together. Anyway, and the Del Monte bankruptcy. That and a whole lot more. Let's get into it. Welcome to the Poplar Report. I'm Steve Poplar. I'm an accountant by trade, and these are your updates that you guys are sending in from all over. If you have something to share, make sure you use the word update somewhere in your comment, and that does get it to the right place. Also, we do want to thank our sponsor, Genesis Gold Group. They help people with retirement accounts to get out of stocks and bonds. It's at all-time highs. Might be a good idea to shift over to precious metals. Even with stocks at all-time highs, gold and silver have outperformed the stock market significantly. When a piece of metal can outperform the stock market, it tells you kind of like the times we're in. Might want to pivot to safety with your retirement accounts. If you want to find out more about that, there'll be a link at the end of the video. All right, let's start off with the Chevron refinery fire in Los Angeles. The fire has been contained, but it was a massive explosion. And if you look up the videos on Twitter or wherever else, you'll see the whole horizon lighting up last night. Just a big deal. It was the largest West Coast refinery. Supposedly, I guess it still is. No word on how long it's going to be down or how much of the production is going to be impacted by this. But this one refinery produces approximately 20% of California's gasoline, 20% of the state's diesel, and 40% of its jet fuel. So all those flights flying in and out of Los Angeles, well, 40% of their jet fuel has just disappeared. We're going to see how much they have stockpiled and how fast it's going to impact. Gas Buddy, the gas tracking app, their CEO went on and said basically in Las Vegas, which is quite a far distance away from Los Angeles, Las Vegas will expect to see a 35-cent to $1 increase in gasoline prices due to this refinery fire. So if you're anywhere on the West Coast, be aware this could very well impact you. The refineries on the coast do feed into pipelines headed to places like Las Vegas. They have a pipeline going to Los Angeles. They send water that way and they get gasoline back. That's just kind of how it works. This is already after California has been shooting itself in the foot repeatedly with shutting down other refineries because they're nasty and dirty and stuff. And we're going to have to ask the question, was this an accident or did some Greenpeace weenie decide that take matters into his own hands? Or her own hands? Or its own hands? They, them? I don't know. Let's keep an eye on that one. Most likely, probably an accident because those kind of things happen with refineries and always have. But with the situation that we've been seeing going around, you never know. All right, Apple has decided to finally take down the apps used by Antifa and other violent organizers, community organizers, for reporting sightings of ICE agents. And of course, a lot of times they misidentify them as ICE agents when they're just federal officers or even local enforcement. Warning criminal gangs, cartel members, and other violent offenders that police are on their way, which has led to increasing violent encounters between law enforcement and criminals. It's, yeah, you can't report the police to the criminals. Like, that's not how America works. I mean, you do have freedom of speech, but you also can't be endangering the police officers' lives. That's just, you can't do that, okay? And Apple is finally realizing that after a long period of time. All right, President Trump has set this Sunday as the deadline for Hamas to accept the peace deal that President Trump has hammered out with Israel and with Middle Eastern countries and a whole bunch of other countries. Even Russia is on board. So, but it basically calls for Hamas to completely disarm itself, lay down their weapons, and release all the hostages. Apparently, they don't like it so much. They don't like the whole give up all their weapons thing. Sorry, but you don't have the Second Amendment in Israel. Nope, you don't. All right, mass protests and strikes in Italy for the Palestinians. I mean, they have until Sunday to make a decision, but this is to pressure the Italian government to do something. I don't know. Maybe they should hear about the peace deal that President Trump hammered out. Anyway, violence striking across cities across Italy, hundreds of thousands of people taking to the streets. It's indicative of what we're seeing overseas. 10 million non-Americans, that's a key point there, non-Americans, to lose their health coverage. That is if the Democrats fail to stop Trump, right? That's what they're demanding on this budget negotiation is the Democrats are like, give health care back to those 10 million non-Americans because they should get free stuff. Who here gets free health care? No, I'm not talking to you guys who paid into the system and are now taking out of the system that you paid into already. I'm talking about people who haven't paid into the system who are getting free stuff. Does that describe many people that you know? Probably not. Now, I'm sure there's some Americans who were disabled from birth or whatever, and they have, basically just been helped by the system. But I mean, that we get that. That's if someone is born without the ability to provide for themselves, yeah, we believe that should be something that we help with as a society, right? But I'm talking about, by and large, most Americans pay into the system, and then later in life, they take out of the system a bit. Usually they put in more than what they take out, but then we have these people coming in from the outside who are just coming in and just taking from the system and not putting anything into it. Yeah, we don't agree that they have a right to get free stuff from us paying Americans. All right, along that same line, Russ Vought, not the hero that we elected, but the hero that we needed. He is the Office of Management and Budget leader, and I know that's like a big yawn right there, right? It's just kind of very exciting stuff. It's here on the Poplar report, accountant by trade. It means something to me, but not to most people. Anyway, with the lack of a budget authorization from Congress, he basically can cancel anything he wants to now. That's how the White House is interpreting things, and there's really nobody to stop them. So he can cancel anything that President Trump says, okay, cancel it. So he's been in multiple meetings with President Trump, and President Trump has been authorizing him canceling some stuff. Just yesterday, he canceled $2.1 billion in Chicago infrastructure projects due to the fact that they are using race-based contracting. The day before, he canceled $18 billion of New York City infrastructure projects that were infused with DIE principles. I refuse to pronounce it the other way. The DIE principles. Then they also canceled $8 billion in Green New Scams spending. Now, basically what we're seeing here is, and this is just about as sweet as possibly can be, President Trump and Russ Vought are going down and they're just canceling all of the Democratic pork projects. Yeah, the bridges to nowhere, the subways, the rail projects, the money that they got to enrich their friends. All these senators and congressmen must be sitting there horrified as their pork projects are getting canceled. They worked for years to get those pork projects approved. And now the Trump administration is just like, yeah, we're just going to stop paying that. And it's not just stop paying it for this period. It's stop paying it. Cancel those projects. That's a big deal. All right, so we got that happening. Frank Lutz, you may have heard of him. He's famous for doing his surveys and polling people on State of the Union addresses, elections, stuff like that. Well, Frank Lutz is out there, and he's done his polling of Americans to see who do they blame for this government shutdown, because it's very important. Who they blame is going to really dictate who has the leverage when it comes to the shutdown and getting their way. 68.9% of Americans blame the Democrats. That's not a small percentage. That's a big percentage, especially when compared to the 17% that blame Republicans. Yeah, 17%, 69% essentially. And 10.8% blame both parties. So you can see they massively blame Democrats by themselves for this shutdown. In this shutdown, what we're going to see next is 750,000 non-essential federal workers are now going to be subject to potential layoffs if President Trump and our hero in the Cape, Russ Vought, decides to do so. President Trump has said that that's what's coming. He is looking for agencies to cancel. Yeah, he's going to just cancel whole agencies, whole departments. And I couldn't be happier about it. I hope this shutdown continues, and I hope that the rubber red stamp comes out and gets stamped all over this government, and it gets cut down to size so fast in a way that legislation and Congress could never do. All right, USCIS, or the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services Department, has launched an operation. It's called Twin Shield. What they did was they took a specific area, Minneapolis-St. Paul, and they analyzed all of the open immigration cases for permanent residency and for visas and stuff like that. And they went in and looked for how much fraud is involved here. They had 900 pending immigration cases. 44% of them turned out to be fraudulent. Either fraudulent, they had security issues, or they had downright non-compliance. Yeah, that's the kind of immigration that we have going on in front of the immigration lawyers and immigration courts today. Now, Minneapolis-St. Paul has a very high Somali population. Ilhan Omar is from there. She's the one who married her brother in order to get U.S. citizenship. Yeah, anyway, how she ended up in Congress is a testament to how whacked out Minneapolis is. All right, RND says, Southeast Ohio, I purchased a calf, yes, last year, so baby cow, right, for $750. This year, the same size calf, same age, same breed, cost $1,600. Last year, $750. This year, $1,600. Ouch. James says, I am sure someone has brought this up, and we did discuss this earlier, but it's important, but saw where Del Monte has filed for bankruptcy. They had served America for 130 years. Okay, so something I would just throw out there is there are different kinds of bankruptcy. Some bankruptcies mean like the whole business gets liquidated, it goes out of business, and it's gone. Del Monte restructured their debt. So it's not good. If you loan Del Monte money, you're not going to get it back as quickly as you had hoped. You're not going to get as much interest as you hoped. And the terms have just changed on you, and you didn't really get a chance to have any say in that. So if you're an investor in Del Monte, you could have gotten kind of toasted on that one. But us public people who just buy Del Monte green beans and whatever else when you feel like it, when you don't want great value, we're not going to really experience too much of a change, probably. They filed for bankruptcy. They restructured their debt. They acquired $900 million more in cash investments, right, in order to kind of offset their $1 billion in liabilities and debt. It was just unsustainable. They're paying more in interest than what they were bringing in every month. And so they made some bad choices. They built up too much stock, and they did bad stuff. I mean, it doesn't seem to be like fraudulent stuff, but just bad choices, bad business operation choices. So they're probably restructuring in order to sell the entire company to somebody new. That's probably what's happening. It will continue to operate. Del Monte will still be on store shelves unless they decide to change the name at some point. But, it's still going to do what it's doing. It's just Wall Street stuff happening and banker stuff. Anyway, Joan says, I spent 5 weeks in China and Hong Kong 22 years ago. My biggest shock was the long lines of people in Hong Kong from all over the world buying gold, from 4 or 5 shops on each block. Those lines went out to the street. They knew back then that gold was king, and indeed it is. Kathy says, look at the revenue Coke and Pepsi have lost due to the restrictions that have been slapped on them from EBT sales. So basically SNAP programs or food stamps, right? Someone has to pay those stockholders. So there is a statistic out there, and I don't know how accurate it is. It's pretty suspect, but it's a pretty shocking figure. 40.2% of Pepsi and Coke revenue comes from SNAP spending. That's what they say. Now, remember, PepsiCo owns things like Cheetos and Lay's potato chips and a bunch of this other stuff, right? I think that's probably doesn't make sense, those numbers, but whatever it is, a significant portion of SNAP spending has been going to things like Frito-Lay chips, Cheetos, and all that kind of stuff, and soda products. And some states have started implementing bans on that, so you can't do that. Now, it's only certain states. It's not nationwide. States can opt to ban those items from their SNAP programs, so they can ban those items. Sugary drinks, they can ban things like chips and candies and stuff like that. The U.S. government has allowed them, finally, under this administration, for states to actually ban those things. PJ says, I went to the store yesterday in East North Carolina. Ribeyes, my wife's favorite, were $14 a pound last week. Yesterday, they were $24 a pound. At the same store, I thought beef had already peaked price-wise. I was so wrong. Unfortunately, friends, it's going to probably keep going up. Thomas says, last January, I got $1,000 for 6-month calves. Not surprised by uptick in prices. No cattle on Texas ranches these days. I use the sale of calves to pay property taxes. And Colorado Pack Rat Prepper says, Google constantly asking me if I want to install the Gemini AI crap. I constantly say no. I didn't realize that it was artificial intelligence, so now I really don't want it. Well, that's 2-quart slow cooker that I wanted. Went from $22 up to $63. Then it came back down to $27. Is now back up to $62. And only in the color purple. All right, friends, please do keep your reports coming in. If you want to get some more information from Genesis Gold, there's a link right there on the screen. If you want to check out another video from his channel, there's one right up there. Thanks so much for watching. Steve Poplar of the Poplar Report, out.